Let's begin the show with our opening keynote. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Rajesh Nambiar, President, Digital Business and Technology, Chairman, Cognizant India, who's going to speak about innovation, the launchpad out of the crisis. Over to you, Rajesh.
Thank you, Pandey. And first, I want to thank NASCOM and all of you very much for this opportunity. It is my absolute pleasure to be a part of the NASTech 2021. It's always good to sort of do any event with NASCOM, but especially with NASTech, it's my pleasure to be part of this this event. Now, I also want to congratulate each of you who are in the audience today for the really great resilience you have exhibited over the last 18 to 24 months amidst one of the greatest crises generation actually seen. So as an industry, we not only took care of our employees, but have also helped our communities at really in a fantastic way, and that's something which we keep hearing from the broader organizations and broader communities all the time. All of this while staying resilient and running our businesses, fairly well. Right? So that's the context I want to sort of set. Now, over the next few minutes, I would like to share my own views on a few things. Right. So number one, the Indian tech industry has always emerged stronger out of a crisis, right? So, and COVID was no different. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Number two, around how crisis has always accelerated innovation across the world. Innovations have helped the tech industry, and for that matter, all industries, to not only survive the COVID crisis, but truly thrive and emerge stronger. Right? So this is almost sort of anti-fragile, if you may. The third point I want to maybe deal a little bit with would be the innovation, especially in India, and how is it part of India's DNA. And we saw that during the past 18 months, not only from a large corporations, but also from really the small ones and tech startups and so on and so forth. So how this whole innovation has actually come to bear. And then the fourth one, of course, is, want to stress that innovation is not just about technology, but it's also about people, and how it's important that we always put the people at the center of everything that we are trying to do here. Right? So these are the four things, and we'll dwell on all of them pretty quickly. Right? And to begin with, Indian tech industry has always emerged stronger out of a crisis. So to begin, I must acknowledge that over the past few decades, we can proudly claim that the tech industry has proved to be a great survivor of many crises over a period of time, be it the dot-com crisis or the financial crisis. And historically, tech industries has emerged stronger each time there's been a crisis. Right? So every crisis saw the tech industry reinvent itself to be a better version of itself, right? So it brings to my mind that there's a saying which says, "Never let a serious crisis go waste." And what I mean by that is that crisis offers an enormous amount of opportunity to do things you never thought were possible before. So it's a great opportunity to remain, relevant, great opportunity to sort of reimagine new solutions and prepare for a better future for all of us. Now, in fact, if you look back, and it was a crisis that actually accelerated innovation and adoption of technologies in several locations. The SARS epidemic, which all of us were familiar in 2005, led to the quick and widespread adoption of e-commerce. Began in China, but certainly everywhere else as well, which has become the norm across the world today, right? So the 2009 financial crisis, on the other hand, led to a digital sharing economy powered by technology with a lot more controls and whatnot. The climate change crisis, which accelerated innovation in renewable energy, for example, and then as well as technologies such as artificial intelligence or IoT and cloud, to help reduce emissions, and the list keeps going on and on, right? But we never really had given enough thought to a deadly virus igniting disruption in the world like we had in this crisis, if you may, with COVID. So none of us, expected an event that could bring the entire world to a pretty much a grinding halt. And depending on where you were, quarantining in our own homes, disrupting all our business, quite honestly, disrupting some of the supply chain, and quite frankly, disrupting our daily routines in many ways. And this actually gave birth to a new set of innovations across our industries. So in-person activities that we took it for granted, face-to-face activities, whether it is health, education, shopping, fine dining, entertainment, physical fitness, you name it, right? They're all switched to sort of almost overnight to an online format. We stopped going to offices and, of course, transitioned to a new virtual work reality, which has its own set of challenges with it, but it took a new work culture as well, right? Industries across the board, from healthcare to life sciences, or banking to manufacturing, started reimagining nearly every facet of their operations and upgrading their technologies in a very meaningful way, in a very impactful way, if you may, right? So the importance of building resilience, right, the ability to predict and rebound from shocks, and thrive against all odds became paramount important for enterprise. So that's what the first part I want to make. Now, the second point I was trying to say was innovations and how it helped companies emerge out of this crisis even stronger, the anti-fragility part of it. So let's not forget that all of this would not have happened, but for the years of investment that went into into building those digital infrastructure, the metadata formats, and what companies could do in a broader sense, the connectivity that we've been able to do. So I just can't imagine how we would have handled a similar pandemic hitting us, say, about 20 years back, when we probably didn't have even remotely even a small part of the connectivity that we have today. So no question that we would have found a way to wriggle out of that situation as well. But we would have come out of it the way we have now is something to think about, how we would have done that. So that's why investments in technology, investments in technical infrastructure, any infrastructure, and then investments in innovation is actually going to be paramount. And let's not forget that many of the innovations that different industries accelerated during the COVID crisis were seeded a lot earlier, because you couldn't have built all of those connectivity overnight. So some level of infrastructure was actually there even before all of this crisis actually happened. So the thought at that time was these innovations will see the light of the day, say in the next 5 to 10 years and all of that. But the crisis actually accelerated it to months and days, right? So some call this acceleration, if you may, the acceleration of technology, innovation to tide over the crisis. So in my mind, I think a lot more corporations started getting a lot more digital a lot sooner than they were planning for. So we also saw the crisis also forced scientific breakthroughs for example, in healthcare and life sciences industries, whether it is tests or treatments or vaccination against COVID. They were realized within months, not years, which normally would have taken. The mRNA vaccine, for example, are game changers in the pharma industry. And then their research started as early as probably 1970s, and was slowly progressing over the last 40 odd years. And the COVID crisis actually presented the launch pad for it to become really mainstream. As a producer of 8 vaccines and at the heart of this innovation story in India's pharmaceutical sector, it's also a big feat to have vaccinated over a billion people, as we crossed the milestone a few days ago, in fairly such a short period of time. So in a country as diverse, as large, as complex, and as difficult as India. So we've been reading about innovation in logistics and distribution as well, which has helped India to reach these milestones, including potentially maybe even drone deliveries of vaccines in some of the remote areas. That might be a bit of a show in some parts, but I think at the end of the day, it is important to sort of recognize the Herculean task that got achieved. Even reaching the sort of the hard to reach terrains of our country. So that's all from an India point of view. Now, While a couple of examples, Zipline, for example, the American medical product delivery company, has become the toast of many news stories for delivering life-saving drugs and medical supplies on time during the peak of the pandemic in the US. What our homegrown drone companies have delivered during the past month is also very, very exemplary, right? And I must add that we traveled through this coronavirus tunnel at a fast pace and an incredibly compressed time frame. So the crisis became a catalyst for innovation. It revolutionized the business and revolutionized the technology in a way that's bigger than the last probably industrial revolution, right? So it changed how value was created, how we work together, and what we expect from technology. It accelerated the digitization and automation across the board. So there is no going back now, right? Obviously, because innovation is not only change, but change for the better, right? So when we look at the multiple innovations, various industries have embraced during COVID, I can tell you many of them have become part of our lives moving forward. So that was the second point. Now, let's pivot to innovation in the India's DNA. And then, of course, all of you might have more examples than I could potentially give you on this particular topic. And I really strongly believe that innovation is in India's DNA, and that's not a single day that goes without me watching maybe a video of a local jugaad, or it makes me wonder how did they think of it and how did they do it? If the individuals with limited resource can come up with so many niche ideas or interesting ideas, interesting projects, and how can an industry with the best of minds and resources not deliver? So the past 18 months also saw many startups scaling up big time to become part of the solution to many industries and people problems, all fueled by innovation. So just when everyone thought for example, the QR codes that now we are very familiar with, they were going out of fashion, if you may. And then the crisis saw many startups using QR codes, innovatively to offer solutions for the contactless world, because that actually pushed the QR code into the mainstream again, right? When SMSs were deregulated just to OTPs, some of the microfinance companies are using them to offer their services in remote areas where internet connectivity was an issue, right? And when we thought it's a big grocery stores will be the sort of the trend as we move forward, Kirana stores came with online using WhatsApp to serve local customers. So there's a lot of innovation which happens in these kind of spaces. The tech industry overall has delivered a robust performance, right? In other sectors, companies that invested in innovation and in digital technologies to truly serve the customers, if you may, they gained sustainable advantage and thrived. Companies that continue to operate with industrial models were kind of forced to go pretty quickly into digital and then struggle to survive, if you may. So again, we witnessed firsthand how the wave of digital transformation swept across the world as organizations battled to overcome challenges. And truly modernized, innovation becomes a core part of the DNA, so that they could perform very, very effectively, ensure business continuity, and then sort of future relevance. The world has also realized that great companies are not just efficient, but also should also be resilient, if you may. And then there's always a toss-up between, is resiliency more important than efficiency, and so on and so forth. But obviously today, given the backdrop, resilience is like a muscle that we need to be built by organizations. And I strongly believe that continuous innovation is what you need to build that muscle as we move forward. Now to my last point, people first approach is important to make innovation part of the culture, right? But innovations cannot be restricted to technology. It's not more about how do you really put people at the heart of the change, because at the end of the day, it's not just about installing the sophisticated technology. It's also about broadening the organization's digital intelligence, if you may, right? This means working or driving a work culture that is open to learning constantly, learning about new tools, new technologies, and new skills that put people on the roads into the digital future, if you may, right? The pandemic has also taught us to become a modern, future-fit organization. A people-first approach must be taken alongside the financial growth. Digital innovations must be prioritized with a commitment to building a almost a healthier and a safer world, right? This means, putting the health and safety and well-being of our people as almost a top priority, right? I'm happy about the way our industry responded to the crisis by focusing on the wellness of our people, including the mental well-being, because most time when we talk about well-being, people think of, are you really healthy? Physically, are you healthy? But what this pandemic has taught us is that, look, mental well-being cannot be taken for granted. So there's a lot of work which has to be done around how do people feel mentally well as well. Yeah. So we saw many innovations in this way, into sort of employee services are delivered through talent management, recruiting and training as well. Yeah. So the fact is, all of these innovations that have emerged from the COVID crisis have changed the lives of millions, and literally probably saved millions of lives as well. In the years ahead, the power of innovation and digital solutions will help countless businesses emerge, from the crisis, and we should be determined to build the best possible conditions for this to happen, right? With infrastructure, with skills, with data clouds, artificial intelligence, automation, all of that will be key for us to sort of ensure that we're able to build that. This is how India's digital decade will achieve our goals of becoming the tech capital of the world, right? Well, to conclude, I will once again underline the COVID crisis as accelerated digital innovations and transformation on a global scale. And as I mentioned before, COVID has actually made the companies go much more digital, a lot more sooner than we ever anticipated in the past. So we have shown how well we can sprint out of this crisis. It is time now to show the world that as an industry, we are also good at long distance running. So to keep the momentum up and then continue to sort of be innovative. So in my mind, we have a clear choice in front of us, right? So for companies, either you have to innovate and stay relevant, or of course, stay put and become irrelevant. So that's my broader thoughts around what we're going to be doing on the innovation. So with that, let me thank the organizers, especially NASCOM, for organizing this, and then I wish you all a fantastic days of conference ahead. Thank you.
Well, begin is half done. Thank you so much, Rajesh, for setting the tone right for NASTech 2021. And you used a very important word and a very interesting word, which is declaration. I'm sure this is going to become a buzzword very soon. You also spoke about something which was, how a crisis can actually present in front of us some great opportunities. So thanks so much once again, Rajesh, for giving those insights.